Hello and welcome to another episode of Damn Interesting Week. We are so glad you've decided to join us. My name is Jennifer Lee Noonan.
I'm Angela Epley.
I'm Bradley Calhoun.
And this was a damn interesting week. So let's get started with our first link.
First link.
All right, from The Guardian. Getting children to eat their vegetables starts in the womb. So researchers have discovered that young children are less likely to react negatively to the smell of vegetables that they were repeatedly exposed to before birth. The researchers gave some pregnant women either kale powder capsules or carrot capsules, and then they examined the facial reactions of their child using ultrasound.
Wow.
And they even have some of the ultrasound pictures of the fetal faces, which is amazing, creepy, all of the above.
Right.
And then after the baby was born, they repeated this when they were about 3 weeks old. And more recently, 12 children were observed age 3. The team focused on giving kale and carrot powder capsules after some of the pregnant women balked at drinking so much kale juice or carrot juice in the name of science. So they started off with juices, and some of them said, absolutely not. They were choking. And here's what the researcher said. I mean, it was all really good juice, very expensive, which is so what a mother would say to a child, like, come on, this is expensive.
Yeah, I mean, the cynic in me was like, it's irrelevant if we know this because the moms weren't eating vegetables before, so they're not going to eat them now. But if you can take a vegetable pill and make your kid a better eater than you are, you know, people will go for that.
And it also kind of shows that if you have an aversion to veggies, well, you might want to put the little bit of that back on mom because that may be where some of it came from, right? If your mom was not eating a whole bunch of veggies, like my mom apparently ate a lot of bitter melon when she was pregnant with me. I used to think it was just because she was going to have a bitter child, but maybe that flavor profile is something I need to investigate a little bit more.
Yeah, you might love it and not know it.
So we still need to learn a lot more about what actually affects the fetus, especially when it comes to not even vegetables. For example, artificial sweeteners that are in nearly everything, including stuff like toothpaste.
Yeah, I saw something like this once where it was basically yet another study where they focused on adopted babies. So they had babies that were born in a foreign country but were immediately adopted into a different country. And they followed them along and basically showed that for the rest of their lives, they still had a preference for the foods of their home country, even if they had genuinely not been exposed to them as they grew up. There was some sort of chemical recognition that this is what their mother had been eating the entire time she was pregnant. So I definitely believe it's true. Again, I don't know that this information is going to help anyone because I think even if you're like, okay, I don't eat veggies, but I'll take the pills so my kid will be a good eater. But if you're not cooking kale and carrots for dinner, your kid is not going to be like, well, I see that you're having pizza, but I just love kale so much. Like there's bigger hurdles to get over there.
Some. I'd also like to see sibling studies because I don't. But my sister loves them. My brother loves them.
Well, you know, I wonder what your mother's eating habits were at different stages because mothers can report like I craved all the meat with this one and this one I couldn't stand meat at all.
Well, like I can say my brother was a much pickier eater than I was, but I was the oldest. So I can imagine maybe my mother was like trying harder with me. And by the time he came along, she's like, I don't even care. Give me cookies for breakfast. I'm done. Like, let's go. It's my fault is what I'm saying. That like, I broke her down and now he's a picky eater.
Well, you know, they made Cookie Crisp for a reason. So
there you go. Part of this complete breakfast.
That's right. Next link.
Next link.
All right. This comes from The Conversation. Most people don't know what they don't know, but they think they do.
Yeah. People are dumb. That's the headline.
But think they're smart. Correcting your meta-knowledge can make you a better teacher and learner. All right. Do you know what the Apple logo looks like? Chances are you think you do. It's ubiquitous, iconic. How could you not know it? But when tested, it turns out very few people can remember all the features of the logo. One study of 85 people found that only about half could pick the correct logo out of a lineup of similar ones. And only one person could draw it correctly.
Oh, wow.
This isn't an isolated example. A classic study from 1979 found that people similarly couldn't draw a penny accurately or pick out a correctly drawn penny from incorrect ones. In a 2006 study, many people made significant errors when drawing a bicycle, like putting the chain around the front wheel as well as the back wheel. More than just a forgotten detail, putting the chain around both wheels shows a deeper misunderstanding of how bicycles work or that people just can't draw very well.
Yeah.
So what can we do, right? Researchers have identified several factors behind people's overconfidence in their own knowledge. One is that people confuse environmental support with understanding. The information's out in the world, but not actually in your head. A second factor is confusing different levels of analysis. People can often describe how something works at a very high level. You know that the engine of a car makes the car go and the brakes stop the vehicle, but confidence in your high-level understanding of the car may bias you to think you also have a good grasp of the finer details, like how the engine pistons work. Additionally, people can be blind to the ways their knowledge shapes their own perception. In one study, researchers had participants tap out a tune to a popular song. On average, the tappers thought listeners would be able to identify the song about 50% of the time. But when listeners had to identify the tap song, it was only about 2.5% of the time. The tappers didn't realize how much their own knowledge was making identifying the song seem easy to them. This disconnect has consequences beyond whether someone else can understand your Morse code vision of a song. Building expertise often involves internalizing your knowledge to the point where it becomes invisible to you. That's something I've learned in teaching. It's just words that I use in commonplace. I have very few students who I appreciate stop me and say, never heard that word before. Can you tell me what that means? And that makes me realize, oh, sorry, I lost you at the very beginning.
But thank you for speaking up.
Yeah, thank you for saying you didn't know.
Well, it's a little bit like the computer programmer rubber duck trick. I don't know if you guys know, like if you have a program and it's not working and you can't figure out where the bug is, you have a rubber duck and you have to explain to that rubber duck how the program works. And in the process of explaining to it, you usually figure out, oh, I know where I went wrong. But it's like it forces you to like explain it to me like I'm 5 kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It makes you go through it in a simpler way and then you see your problem.
It kind of reminds me of like in some of the spiritual traditions, they talk about beginner's mind, because if you're an expert, there's only one way something can be done. But if you're a beginner, there are many ways something can be done.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of something they mention here, right? Like some experts are great teachers, but not simply by virtue of just being an expert. Like expertise doesn't automatically make you a skilled teacher.
Well, and there's a basic impatience as well. It's like, whether or not you know this, I don't want to take the time to explain it to you on a kindergarten level. So I'm not a good teacher just by virtue of the fact that I don't want to take the time.
Yeah, and that zoom out of just recognizing the fallibility of your own meta-knowledge is a great place to start.
Yeah, just repeat to yourself in the mirror every day, I'm an idiot. Everybody knows more than me. I'm an idiot.
It's the opposite of, what was it, Smalley?
Stuart Smalley.
Yeah, you're good enough, you're smart enough, but not quite.
Man, he was aura farming for all the Gen Zers were doing it, wasn't he?
Yeah. Next link.
Next link.
All right, this next article comes from Tasting History with Max Miller, and it's about an 18th century food known as pocket soup.
Oh, no. Oh, this
What?
sounds terrible.
Sounds like an oxymoron.
Or amazing. So on the one hand, it's not quite as strange as it sounds because it's basically the precursor to the bouillon cube.
Ah.
But what's interesting here is just how widespread it was as a portable food, and also beyond the history, we get to learn how to make it. So first, the recipe. Like most food traditions, we don't know when or where it truly originated, but the first written reference appears in the late 1500s from a man named Sir Hugh Platt, who wrote that it was made, quote, from neat's feet and leg of beef boiled to a great stiffness. And I actually went down a rabbit hole because I was like, what the heck is neat's feet? It's Neats. And it turns out, number one, neat is an old English word for cattle.
Oh.
But number two, you can still buy neat's foot oil today as a leather conditioner. So, delicious. Anyway, this description was clarified about a century later in a French dictionary, which called it tablette and described it as a broth to carry in your pocket. But the oldest proper recipe with instructions comes from Lady Anne Blencowe in 1694. But she doesn't call it pocket soup, she calls it veal glue.
Oh, no.
And she notes that when it's properly prepared, it will keep for years without going bad. Now, most other recipes call for beef rather than veal, but either way, the key is that it must include bones, and preferably big ones, because that's ultimately what provides the collagen that makes it possible to turn this liquid into a solid. And the first step is just making a broth, right? You cover your beef shanks or whatever you have with water and let it boil down for about 8 to 12 hours. Then you strain all the pieces out, and this is really important. You have to let it fully cool so the fat will solidify at the top and you can completely remove it.
Oh, that's been my problem. I haven't been letting it cool.
Yeah. I mean, and normally most recipes would be like, yeah, skim the fat off the top. But in this case, you can't leave any. Because fat or any tiny chunks of meat that you miss are not going to last for years. They will go rancid. So once you've got the fat removed, the key step that takes it from a broth to pocket soup is you have to steam it or basically keep it over very low heat for another 14 hours or so, making absolutely sure that it doesn't boil. Otherwise, as it gets solid, it's going to burn and the whole batch is ruined. And back in the day, they would just make some poor kitchen maid sit there and stir it over smoldering charcoal for the whole 14 hours.
This has so much energy.
Yeah. These days, Miller recommends using a crock pot on the lowest setting with the lid off. And you'll know when it's done because you'll have a solid disc of basically meat jello that you can hold in one hand and shake around. Then all you have to do is cut it into 1-inch pieces and dry them for a week or two. Or if you're living in modern times, you can put a little fan blowing on it and get them dry in about 5 days. At this point, it'll be rock solid and ready to stick in your pocket. And people definitely did. Pocket soup is one of the key recipes advertised as being in The Art of Cookery Made Plain and Easy from 1747, which says, quote, "This book is not designed to reach professed cooks, but to instruct the young and ignorant." Which I like. That's the kind of cookbook I would have needed as a young person. So I like the straightforward nature of it.
I mean, as far as like traveling with it, it makes a great deal of sense, right? If you're en route somewhere. But I can't believe they missed the opportunity to call it pocket broth. Come on, pocket broth? That's marketable.
I like pocket soup. I'll be honest. One of the reasons I chose this article was simply the fact that I get to say pocket soup so many times. Because there's a comedian named Bob Mortimer who has sort of a recurring joke throughout his career of like pocket meat, pocket cheese, pocket Scotch egg. Like he keeps food in his pocket is the gist.
Well, I guess we know what his grandmothers and mothers raised him on. He's got a taste for...
That's right. The flavor of the pocket really comes through for the fetus. Despite not being for professionals, a professional cook named Elizabeth Dubois started selling pocket soup as a takeout item in her tavern, where she noted that it was not disagreeable to chew while hunting.
Oh, boy.
She also agreed with you that it was useful on journeys or at sea. And this was the impetus for her getting a contract in 1756 to manufacture large amounts of it for the British Navy. Soon after that, it was purchased in bulk by Lewis and Clark, who wrote that they wanted no less than 200 pounds of the stuff, for which they paid roughly $1.50 per pound. But again, it's very light. Like, that's a lot for $1.50. And Lewis and Clark did note that it was a food of last resort. They did as much hunting and scavenging as they could for most of their journey. And even as they were crossing the Bitterroot Mountains and really had nothing to eat, they initially opted to kill and eat one of their horses rather than eat the pocket soup.
It's so tasty.
But, starvation is a great motivator, and they did eventually end up eating nothing but pocket soup for 11 days straight.
They didn't think of, ration maxing? Like, using them together?
Ration maxing?
I don't
Please
know.
don't do that. Please don't do that.
I don't know what they were thinking. I think they were mostly thinking, well, it's each other or this little square of broth.
Right.
But in 1815, pocket soup took its first major blow when the British Navy stopped serving it to their sailors, because for a while they thought it might be one of the things that cured scurvy. Then they figured out that it didn't, and they were like, why are we doing this? Shortly after that, canned foods became a thing, and a product called Liebig's extract of meat entered the market, which eventually joined up with a company called Oxo to create what they called a bouillon cube. But the key to the bouillon cube was that it used quite a lot of salt for preservation, which meant that you had to dilute it back into a broth. You couldn't just pop one into your mouth anymore. But again, people never really wanted to do that in the first place. It was just a function of necessity. And once we had trains going westward, there was no reason for anyone to be making these grueling Oregon Trail kind of journeys without proper food. So in the end, Miller agrees that it doesn't taste very good. This is really more of a history than a real recipe. But I don't know. I think it might turn out to be super useful information in the apocalypse. Like, don't knock it.
Yeah, with all the time that we're going to have since the internet will be down, what are you going to do?
Spend 14 hours stirring.
That's right.
Just make it a trendy restaurant downtown Austin. And yeah.
All the trendy restaurants in the apocalypse. I don't know. I think one of my other major takeaways here is that the Oregon Trail lied to me because they were letting my characters die left and right of starvation. But we could have been carrying pocket soup the whole time.
That's right. Could have saved you.
But the dysentery still would have got us.
Right. Yeah. It exacerbated the dysentery.
That's true. It might be what caused the dysentery. Next link.
Next link.
Okay, from Discover Magazine. This substance is 1,000 times more potent than the world's spiciest pepper, and it could provide pain relief. This is the hottest substance on Earth that is being investigated as the future of pain relief, and it is called resiniferatoxin. toxin. So if a Carolina Reaper sits around 2 million on the Scoville scale, resiniferatoxin toxin is estimated to be 16 billion Scoville units.
What?
Yeah, it is one of the most intense naturally occurring compounds ever studied. Obviously, this intensity makes it not just dangerous to consume, I would think it's perhaps even fatal, but in controlled settings, researchers are investigating how it could permanently switch off specific pain pathways. So, it's a chemical compound that is similar to capsaicin in that it targets a receptor in the body called TRPV1, which is often referred to as the pain receptor. But it's so powerful that it goes beyond just activating TRPV1. When the human body is exposed to RTX, an intense influx of calcium is flushed into the pain-sensing nerve cells, which basically overloads the cells and effectively destroys them.
It's like you're about to die, so we don't want you to hurt so bad. So.
Yeah, it's basically, oh, I'm sorry, do you have pain feedback? Well, let's just turn it up to 11 and make sure that we blow the circuit effectively.
Yeah.
And it is this dangerous sounding process that scientists believe could be useful in a clinical context and may even replace opioids and anesthetics as a pain treatment. So RTX comes from a plant called Euphorbia resinifera, which is a spiny cushion-shaped plant native to Morocco, and it grows about 10 to 20 inches in height. It's a succulent that can be found in a lot of rock gardens because it's very low maintenance. And the plant produces a milky latex that contains RTX as a defensive chemical. Now, in its natural habitat, RTX helps to deter herbivores from taking a bite of the plant, as its irritant properties make it a less than ideal dinner option, unless the younger animals are daring the other younger animals that they can't do it. I'm sure that happens in nature all the time.
The one chip challenge, but Bambi.
That's right. That's right. The one succulent challenge for squirrels. And according to the National Library of Medicine, plants in the Euphorbia family have been used in traditional medicine and remedies since the height of the Roman Empire. But for modern medicine, scientists needed to discover and isolate its effects at a molecular level for controlled usage, which is, I have such a bone to pick about the way science does this. There may be other compounds in the plant that enhance or somehow modify those effects. So when we isolate things, we're losing some of the entourage effect, but whatever.
Well, it's safe usage is also, so we own the IP.
Yes.
Right.
But one of the most promising future uses involves injecting RTX directly into specific areas, such as around the spinal cord or even affected nerves. And some of these early clinical studies are showing that a single treatment of RTX could provide long-lasting and possibly even permanent pain relief, which would be a huge departure from current pain management strategies, which often rely on continuous medication and carry risks like addiction and other fun side effects.
But, people like spicy food. Maybe you get addicted to the RTX. You're like, I gotta have my fix. It's so spicy.
I can't imagine. I was going to say I cannot imagine, but no, I actually could imagine. And I'm sure that RTX specialty restaurant shows up in Japan more than anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, my alternative for my neck pain now, that they told me at the doctor, was, well, we can put Botox in the back of your neck.
It is another way of killing nerves. It's
Correct.
just
It just sort of freezes them or just disables them, right? As opposed to like literally burning them out.
Well, and they can do that during some surgeries now, too. They can burn the nerves out, knowing full well that they're going to grow back, but it takes about 4 months for it to grow back. So by then, you will be mostly healed. I know people who have had that done during surgery, and it works.
But does growing the nerve back, does it feel like when you make a scab and then the new skin underneath is like, oh, so itchy?
No, this was pretty deep in the ribs. Like these are major nerves, not like the touch nerves on the surface of your skin.
Okay.
And I do think there is a risk of like, what if it doesn't grow back? But they're always pretty sure it will. So.
Or what if it grows back like, okay, try burning me out. I'm growing back faster and stronger than ever. Your pain is going to be unreal.
It's like your body is Pet Cemetery and it comes back wrong.
Next link?
Next link.
This is from Science News. Yawning is contagious, even in the womb.
Oh, no. Okay. I'm going to give you a heads up right now. I am highly contagious to yawns, and I'm going to be yawning throughout this entire article. I'm going to do my best to do it off mic. Just bear with me.
Deep breaths, y'all. Deep breaths. Get that oxygen in. Come on.
Well, and you're kind of proof to the point here. The opening line is a fetus doesn't have to see a yawn to catch it. You can just talk about it, I guess.
Yeah, you sure can. Listen, I'm going to tell you, when I was in second grade, my teacher put a poster up of a lion yawning, and it was just a fun little poster, and she had to take it down because it was in my eye line, and I could not stop. It's bad, y'all.
Wow.
See, there it is. All right, sorry. Should I pick a different story?
No, keep going. This is good.
Are you gonna be
I
able
feel
to
like
edit
you'd be
this?
such a good candidate for hypnotherapy.
Probably. This is exposure therapy. Let's
You're editing this. You're just going to fall asleep. So yeah, yawning is contagious, and among many social creatures, including humans, dogs, they even mention lions in here.
What?
And parakeets. While the behavior is generally thought to boost blood flow to the brain for cooling and alertness, yawning could also help synchronize group movements and be a primitive form of empathy.
Aw.
And it begins before birth. In utero, I'm trying to not say the word as much, but in utero.
It's fine.
Okay.
I'm thinking it, which is plenty. I keep going off mic. Y'all don't know. I've already done like 5 or 6.
Okay. In utero, yawns support brain development, ensuring that all the necessary muscles and brain connections needed for yawning and breathing are in working order. But researchers largely attributed these to natural body programming, different from the socially contagious reflex that strikes children and adults alike. To test whether fetuses catch yawns from their mothers, the scientists at the University of Parma in Italy, Diadamo and colleagues showed videos of yawning people to a group of 38 pregnant women who were in their 3rd trimester. Cameras captured the mothers' prompted yawns while ultrasound monitored their fetuses. Roughly 64% of the mothers yawned. Just over half of the fetuses responded to their mother's yawning within about a minute and a half. So it's possible that the physical movements of the yawn puts pressure on the uterus in ways that signal to the fetus that it should yawn too. Future studies examining women at various stages of pregnancy could help uncover how mothers pass on their yawns and their carrot juice.
Right? Sorry, I was.
Right? Oh, it's so boring.
Yeah. No, so like, I also wonder if there's a neurological component, like something in my brain says yawn now. And I wonder if that neurological signal is what's getting to the babies as opposed to some sort of physical awareness. Because I don't even understand, what does a yawn look like in a fetus when you're not breathing? I mean, you're just sort of opening your mouth, but you're not expanding your lungs. So
well, I mean,
don't know.
Are you pulling in more amniotic fluid?
Maybe it is fully a yawn. There's just no oxygen transfer happening.
Oh.
Is there oxygen in amniotic fluid?
No, it goes through the umbilical cord.
It's a question for Google later.
Right.
Oh, goodness.
Next link.
Next link.
All right. Well, I've got a quick one here from Unitree Robotics, which it's not even pretending to be an article from a third party. It's just a straight up PR video, but it's nonetheless pretty cool. The title of the video is Unitree Unveils GD01, a manned transformable mecha.
Oh, like I think I get it.
It's a mech suit. Now, it's not a fully enclosed thing like a Voltron. It's more like the thing that Sigourney Weaver uses in Alien.
Oh.
Only your legs are not involved. The mech is handling all the walking and balancing by itself. Like, it's basically a larger version of the various walking robots that we've seen now, but the central body is this big egg-shaped frame with a seat in it. And it can operate independently. So it feels like whoever is in the seat is going to be, let's say, aiming at something. But if you want to stay optimistic, I could also see this thing being used for fighting wildfires or various rescue operations. Or, maybe since America doesn't want to do electric cars, we just leapfrog ourselves all the way over to electric robots, and this is how we all get to work someday. Who's to say? Now, they do show a very stoic engineer climbing into it, and I'll be honest, it's a pretty tight fit. Like, he's clearly not a big guy, and yet he still has to do a fair amount of leg contortions to squirm his way through the sort of dune buggy-like cage and get himself into the seat. Later in the video, they show off a sort of secondary mode where it drops down on all fours and moves like a walking dog robot instead, which looks cool, but the human in that situation is now laying on their back, walking head first. So it feels like that mode is not going to be especially sustainable if there's a person inside
on their
it.
back, they're not looking down. They're looking at the sky.
Right, it doesn't go forward. It leans back, and now its arms are behind it.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like doing a backstroke. Like, I'm not going to hit my head on anything. It's fine.
Yeah, like, I don't even want to ride a train backwards. Like, the idea of laying on your back and it's just walking along, I don't like it. They also show it knocking over a cinder block wall with a little fist bump.
Did it go, oh yeah, afterwards?
Literally, like, it just... But if you look, you can see that they're not mortared. They're just stacked on top of one another. And to that end, they say, quote, individual users are advised to thoroughly understand the limitations of humanoid robots before making a purchase.
Do not put a machine gun on this.
Well, yeah, they also end the video with a bunch of disclaimers, like, we kindly request that all users refrain from making any dangerous modifications.
There you go. The honor system. That's always worked well for us.
All that being said, if you want to buy one, apparently you only need about $650,000.
Okay.
So have a bake sale, I feel like it's very hard for me to find the line here where these things are for sale. Somebody must be buying them. But who and for what purpose and where?
God, it would be such a shame if a bunch of billionaires bought these as like a wealth flex and got crushed inside of them for some reason. That would be terrible.
Or it's a challenge. Lay in the dog mode, walking backwards on your head, and see how long you can stand that before you lose your mind. And Mr. Beast will give you 100.
Right. A new form of limbo.
There you go. Everybody's playing limbo in their robots. All right, next link.
Next link.
All right, from McGill University. Why did LLMs steal our M dashes?
Oh,
I know that you're mad about this.
Yeah, I have opinions.
Yeah, we got opinions if you are a reader and a writer, because it does kind of feel like LLMs have overdone it a bit. So there are two major reasons why M dashes, along with words like delve or underscores, are so frequent in AI-generated writing. It has to do with the training data and the assessment of said data. So over 60% of the training data used in early models like GPT-3, they just came directly from web crawls, which collect publicly available text off the internet. Now, most LLMs are trained to predict the next few words in a sequence. So if a particular structure, like an M dash, appears often enough and isn't adjusted later on, it can become a characteristic aspect of the model's output. There was a guy on Medium, a writer named Brent Xutoras, who demonstrated in his failed attempts to remove M dashes from the results of ChatGPT, Claude, and other models. The M dashes basically become embedded into the output style of today's LLMs.
Good.
What, do you hate them?
No, it just gives us a marker.
It does.
No,
Yeah.
because I use M dashes all the
Yeah.
Not
time, and
anymore.
you can't take them from me. They're
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not conceding this hill. I absolutely will continue to use M dashes, and
Yeah.
if you think I'm using AI, you can come at me.
Well,
I swear to God.
here's the difference. The LLMs basically overuse M dashes. A good writer who understands when and how to use them, there are, legitimate placements for them, but you're not imagining the overuse of the M dash. So according to an independent researcher, LLMs use M dashes way more frequently than human writers, especially with GPT 4.1 having a 3.28 time higher frequency in standard essays. That'll stand out, right? And similar to that Medium writer's conclusion, they found that M dashes were almost entirely resistant to prompt manipulations and user restrictions. So, okay, how did no one realize that AIs were learning to use M dashes so frequently? Well, there are some journalists, including the economist Alex Hearn, who believe that Africa-based regulation of chatbot content is a key factor. And part of that is because African English uses words like delve much more frequently than the internet at large, which may affect the regulators' choices. However, the work of these moderators mostly ties to removing sexist, racist, or other harmful content, not directly altering the linguistic choices. So initially, they were hypothesizing that the explanation was tied to the datasets being used to train LLMs. But after a small investigation comparing word frequencies in COCA, which is a text dataset of popular modern media, and then open web text, which is a set that mimics AI training data, they found that while open web text often, quote unquote, won out in terms of frequency, the gap wasn't all that significant. So the generally accepted hypothesis to explain this overuse ties back to the training and reinforcement processes. For example, models like Claude and ChatGPT, they have an additional goal with their responses: to provide users with clarity. So M dashes allow for explanatory pauses or the breaking down of complex ideas. Well, they become a really ideal tool for AIs. So LLMs are not only introduced to more M dashes, but their training also reinforces their usage. And this is why M dashes appear way more frequently with LLMs than in typical human writing. What does this mean in the long term? Personally, the researcher believes these models will soon reduce their use of M dashes. Individuals are currently avoiding M dashes and other AI red flags, so their overall usage is decreasing. And as LLMs get more frequent content updates, the decreased use of these writing tools may have an influence on their responses. But the question is whether we as writers will ever go back, right? Because the fear of being caught has begun to overtake what writing once was, which was freedom of expression.
Yeah, I mean, I do think they're going to try to aggressively take them out, if only because it has become a thing where people are like, oh, I can tell this is AI. And the people who control these things don't want you to be able to identify it as AI.
Right.
Yeah.
So anything that people pick out and they're like, oh, that's my tell, they're going to be like, oh, we got to reduce that. So what we need is for a bunch of people to start a grassroots campaign of like, oh, I can tell when it spells this word correctly. And then we'll have like a key watermark that we always know.
Yeah, we traded on text and maybe the letter U replaces YOU in normal speech. I shudder to think.
There you go. All right. Well, that is all we have time for today. We're so glad you've joined us. Some of the articles we did not have time to get to today include Dubai has a sewage problem, should we keep looking for ET, and Japan runs out of robot wolves in fight against bears. So all that and more, plus everything we talked about today, can be found on damninteresting.com. If you like our podcast and want to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/damninterestingweek. In the meantime, my name is Jennifer Lee Noonan.
I'm Angela Epley.
I'm Bradley Calhoun.
And we hope you have a damn interesting week. Bye-bye.